Quote, "In the depths of winter, I finally learned that within me lay an incredible summer." End of quote. This is a statement from one of my favorite philosophers, Albert Camus. But what was Albert Camus about? Well, let's briefly start with his background. Albert Camus lived with his mother, who could only hear out of her left ear and was illiterate. His father, a poor agricultural worker, had died from war wounds that was inflicted during the First World War. Albert Camus was a fighter for human rights, particularly within the Algerian context. He was a great writer and was awarded a Nobel Prize in literature. So let's take a look at some of his work. The Outsider. The main character, Meursault, has no empathy or emotions, and this is outlined in two major situations. The first situation is when Meursault's mum dies and he has no feelings. He does not feel sad and he does not cry. The second situation is in a physical altercation. Meursault kills a man with a gunshot who presents a knife in an altercation. Meursault is disengaged emotionally from this situation and expresses no remorse. He does not express anything towards it. He does, however, express at his execution after being sentenced that he would not take the opportunity to turn to God and that life is indeed meaningless. Meursault is convicted not just for his crime, but also for being a stranger to society. As Albert Camus states, quote, "A man who does not weep at his mother's funeral runs the risk of being sentenced to death." End of quote. This also has a link to the concept of the philosophical suicide, which is the notion that belief in spiritual entities is an attempt to escape the absurd, which is life. My second favourite quote from Albert Camus deals with freedom. Quote, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion." End of quote. When I feel trapped by capitalism, I replay that quote in my head for peace of mind. Now, The Myth of Sisyphus is a 1942 philosophical essay addressing the question, is life worth living? From Albert Camus' perspective, we are like Sisyphus, moving the rock up the mountain only to watch it fall down the very bottom, only to start again. This, from my perspective, is a metaphor for life having no meaning. The premise is that contrary to our beliefs, we are just evolved organisms or just a massive collection of atoms, and within this package there is no purpose in life, no set directions, no ultimate plan, no karma, etc. To paraphrase Albert Camus, he feels that we should acknowledge the hopelessness, but unlike other philosophers, he feels we should embrace this to live better. Imagine Sisyphus smiling as he moves the rock up the mountain and laughing as it falls down. And this perhaps is the metaphor of Albert Camus, who acknowledges the absurdity and hopelessness but works within the template, creating and sharing great work with the world, not only providing philosophical questions but also providing philosophical answers. In the end, when we embrace the meaningless, the hopelessness and the absurdity, we can ironically get the most out of life, no matter how insignificant our existence is.